Welcome back. We are continuing. In this diagram, you can see the different nitrogenous bases. Their name is given here: adenine, guanine, cytosine, uracil, and thymine. When they are combining with the respective sugar, what do we call it? Adenine plus sugar is adenosine. Guanine plus sugar is guanosine. Cytidine, uridine, etc. And if the sugar is deoxyribose, then the name will change: deoxyadenosine, deoxyguanosine, deoxycytidine, for uracil here it is not combining with the deoxyribose, so leave it. And thymine is always combining with the deoxyribose, so it is deoxythymidine. And when this nucleoside is combining with the phosphate, one or more, we add the term acid there. For example, adenylate acid, guanylic acid, cytidylate acid, uridylic acid, etc. And if it is a deoxynucleotide, then we call it deoxyadenylic acid, deoxyguanylic acid, deoxycytidylate acid, and deoxythymidylate acid, etc. Okay. Or we also use the term monophosphate, diphosphate, triphosphate, etc. Adenosine monophosphate, adenosine diphosphate, etc. We can use that, also is given here. And how they are organized into a nucleic acid chain. How these different components of the nucleic acid are organized. Look here, this picture is taken from encyclopedia. Sometimes I take from encyclopedia, sometimes I take from textbook. Okay. Here you can see the sugars. Are they ribose sugars or deoxyribose sugars? Look here, oxygen is not there. So they are deoxyribose sugars. On carbon number 1, the nitrogenous bases are arranged. All these nitrogenous bases are arranged on carbon number 1 of the sugars, and all the sugars are beta anomers because the OH is upward. And here is the carbon number 5. On carbon number 5, the phosphate is arranged. On carbon number 5 of every sugar, the phosphate is arranged. Now, the phosphate of one sugar is making an ester linkage with the OH group on carbon number 3. This is carbon number 3 of the next sugar. See, carbon number 5 is bearing a phosphate group. It is making another ester bond with the OH group on carbon number 3 of the next sugar. You see 5, 3, 5, 3 and like that. Already carbon number 5 is engaged in an ester bond formation with the phosphate. So here we have an ester bond. Here we have the next ester bond. So this is a phosphodiester bond. Di means how many? 2. So what you see here is a phosphodiester bond. We say two sugars are joined together by means of phosphodiester bond. And look here, all the sugars have their carbon number 5 in the same direction. We may draw an arrow mark like this. And all the carbon number 5 of all the sugars are directed in that direction, while all the carbon number 3, see, this is the carbon number 3, is oriented in the opposite direction. So we say this is the 5' to 3' direction. Look here, there's a label here. This is the 5' end of this fragment, while this is the 3' end of this fragment, and this is a 5' end of this fragment. Actually, this is what we mean by saying polarity of the nucleic acid. Polarity of the nucleic acid depends upon the arrangement of the sugars. Arrangement of carbon number 5 and carbon number 3 of the sugars. Remember, all the sugars of any given chain are organized in the same direction. And if you take the case of a DNA, it will have one more chain on the other side, and that chain will be anti-parallel, which means its carbon number 5 and 3 will be oriented in the in the opposite direction. Okay. And same picture, but in another manner. You can see 3' end and 5' end here. Polarity is mentioned here. This is from a textbook from chapter 8. Can you find out the textbook? This is a highly useful textbook for you. And here nitrogenous bases are shown. What is the difference between these two chains? Are they different chains of DNA? No. Here oxygen is not there. So this is deoxyribose. This is a segment of DNA. Here oxygen is there. This is a segment of RNA. So structural organization of one chain of DNA and RNA is shown here. And again, chemical nature, you can see here organization, etc. How the nitrogenous bases are organized with respect to the sugars and phosphate. This figure is very much important. For the examination, you will have to draw it. So learn it now itself. This is the best diagram of one strand of DNA possible. This is the diagrammatic representation. Carbon number 5 of a sugar is bonded with carbon number 3 of the next sugar by means of a phosphate, phosphodiester linkage. Is it RNA or DNA? Look here, there is OH group on carbon number 2. So this is RNA. If this OH group is not there, it will be DNA. Okay. RNA is a single-stranded molecule usually, while DNA is a double-stranded molecule, which means DNA consists of two strands running in opposite directions. How are these strands joined together? By means of the nitrogenous bases. Come to the point. See, this is a sugar phosphate backbone. From the backbone are projecting nitrogenous bases. Imagine this is a strand here. There is another strand here in the opposite direction. That strand will have nitrogenous bases projected towards this side. So from both the strands, nitrogenous bases are facing each other. See, this is the next strand. This is the 5' direction, and here the nitrogenous bases will be projecting like this, and these two nitrogenous bases of the opposite strands are engaged in hydrogen bond formation. That is how actually DNA double-stranded structure is formed. We will see in detail. First of all, let us come to the case of RNA. You know all those things. I told you earlier that the oxygen on the phosphate is ionized. So there is a negative charge. Apart from that, there is OH group on ribose sugar as well. So this is the structure of RNA molecule. Usually this is a single-stranded molecule. Can you find out which is the 5' end and which is the 3' end? This is the direction. Here is 3' and the other end is 5'. But if you see in the textbook, you will see the arrow mark is given in the 5' end only. So when you draw, don't draw this arrow mark. Draw the arrow mark only in the 5' direction. And which are the different ribonucleotides? You know it, all of these are in the form of their monophosphates. Adenosine monophosphate, guanosine monophosphate, uridine monophosphate, etc. are there. And you know that there are different types of RNA. You have heard about messenger RNA, the RNA which is carrying the genetic information from the DNA to the polypeptide chain. From the DNA, RNA is produced by a process called transcription. That RNA molecules are of three types. Messenger RNA, which is carrying the genetic code actually. Ribosomal RNA, which along with the proteins form the ribosomes. What you see here is the ribosome. This is the smaller subunit of the ribosome. This is the large subunit of the ribosome. Each subunit consists of ribosomal RNA and proteins. Actually, ribosome is the scaffold the factory where the amino acids are organized to form the polypeptide chain. And a transfer RNA. This is the transfer RNA. This transfer RNA is carrying an amino acid here. What you see here is the amino acid. And it is responsible for transport of the amino acid towards the ribosomes. Actually, it has one more function to identify the nucleotide sequence on the messenger RNA. Because the transfer RNA has something called anticodon. You have learned it earlier. Transfer RNA has something called a anticodon. This anticodon consists of 3 bases. You know that a codon consists of 3 bases. The anticodon on the tRNA should match with the codon of the mRNA. Then only this amino acid will be accepted. So actually tRNA has a 2-in-1 function. Point 1, it is transporting the amino acid towards the ribosome for the synthesis of the polypeptide chain, and function 2, it is responsible for correct identification of the codons on the messenger RNA. Okay, so these are the 3 types of RNA molecules. All the 3 are most essential for the gene expression or for the synthesis of the correct proteins. Remember, RNA molecules are always single stranded, but in tRNA, in some positions, the complementary regions may become paired. Let us see in the next figures. What you see here is the structure of a tRNA molecule. This will come for the examination. You need not learn the base sequence here. I prepared it just to get an idea, just to give an idea for you. But you should know that there is a 3' here. There is a 5' You know, this is a single molecule. So the molecule is bending and folding. The molecule is bending and folding so that the 5' end and the 3' end may come adjacent to each other. And the 3' end is said to be the acceptor arm. Why? The amino acid is bound always at the 3' end of the tRNA. And see here, this segment of the tRNA is arranged parallelly to this segment of the tRNA because the bases are complementary and they are forming hydrogen bonds. Remember, formation of hydrogen bond is a spontaneous process. It is just like iron and a magnet. If a piece of iron is coming near to a magnet, automatically they are absorbed towards each other. They are attracted towards each other. Like that, formation of hydrogen bond is a spontaneous process if the environment is suitable for that. So naturally, hydrogen bonds are formed here. Here, in these 2 segments also there are hydrogen bonds. But why here there is a loop? That loop is called T5C loop. Why there is a loop? Because in these regions the bases are not complementary. Bases are not complementary. So there is a loop here. And there is another loop here. We call it variable loop. Variable loop here. This is the variable loop. And there is a complementary region here. There is base pairing. And we have the anticodon loop. Remember, these 3 bases actually form the anticodon. And this is the anticodon loop. The bases here are not complementary. And coming here, again we have a D loop here. This is a D loop. This is a loop because the bases are not complementary. And here there's a stem and the bases are complementary. So these paired regions are stems. This is a stem. A stem is there. A stem is there. A stem is there. So how many stems are there in the tRNA? There are 4 regions with the stems. And how many loops are there? T5C loop is there. And variable loop is there, anticodon loop is there, D loop is there. There are 4 loops and 4 stems in a typical tRNA molecule. And this is the same molecule. Then what's the difference? We say this is the clover leaf structure. Clover. Clover is a plant. It has leaf. The leaf has a petiole here and 3 leaflets are here. It's a compound leaf actually. So it is something like that. You might have seen such plants in the nature. This is a clover leaf structure. This is the 3-dimensional structure of this tRNA molecule. You should learn this also. You need to learn that the tRNA structure is L-shaped, while this is clover. leaf-like structure. Okay. Coming to the deoxyribonucleotides, you know their name very well by now. There are 4 types in nature. This is actually a segment of DNA. You know that the DNA molecules are double-stranded. When they are coiling around each other, a larger groove is formed here. This is a major groove. While opposite to a major groove, there is a small groove. We call it a minor groove. So there are major grooves and minor grooves, and they are always opposite to each other. Here there is a major groove, and this is a minor groove like that. And how are they bonded together? We will see in the next slides. Remember, the nitrogenous bases are facing towards the center, and hydrogen bonding is only between nitrogenous bases. Actually, the two strands of DNA, you see, they are always parallel. I mean, anti-parallel, but the chains are similar. Okay, they are the same distance. I mean, they are the same distance. Don't use the term parallel because there is a technical term. They are anti-parallel in arrangement. So you say like this: the distance between the two strands is always the same because if there is purine on one strand, at the complementary position there is a pyrimidine. So the hydrogen bond is always between a purine and a pyrimidine. So the molecules in between the two strands, two backbones, are always the same size. They are always of the same size. That's why they are always the same distance. Okay, it is something like a spiral staircase. Yes. And how are they bonded? What are these? This is a guanine and cytosine. What you see here, it's given here, guanine. It's given here, guanine. This is cytosine. Between guanine and cytosine, there are 3 hydrogen bonds. What is this? This is an NH3 group. This is an NH3 group. And what you see here, this is this NH, this is the hydrogen donor. This oxygen is a hydrogen acceptor. So hydrogen bond is always formed between a hydrogen donor and an acceptor. And in cytosine, what is this group? This is a nitrogen atom. This is a nitrogen atom, and this is an oxygen atom. So what is this? This is another hydrogen bond being formed here, and this is another hydrogen bond. You just go to the previous slides to see the atomic structure of guanine and cytosine. When there is a C double bond O on one side, there can be an NH on the other side because NH will be the hydrogen donor and CO will be the hydrogen acceptor. So a hydrogen bond is produced. Between adenine and thymine, the same thing, but there are only 2 hydrogen bonds. Why only 2? Here, donor acceptor relationship is not there. That's the reason. Make a note of it. You should learn how to draw it. That same figure is given here, more diagrammatically, better. Between adenine and thymine, there are 2 C between NH and N. There's a hydrogen bond. NH2 and O, there's a hydrogen bond. Look at the pattern of the hydrogen bond. NH2 and O, NH and N, NH2 and O. This is the pattern of hydrogen bonding. That complementarity of base pairing is shown here. See, we are studying the Watson and Crick structure of DNA. Watson and Crick model of DNA, that the strands are running anti-parallel, that always the purine of a strand is paired with the pyrimidine of the next strand, that the purines and the pyrimidines are paired by means of hydrogen bonds only, that there is a major groove and a minor groove. All these are the features of Watson and Crick model of DNA. Remember, DNA is negatively charged. Look here, every phosphate has a negative charge. Every phosphate has a negative charge. Why deoxyribonucleic acid is an acid? Why it is an acidic molecule? Simply because an acid is a donor of protons and this phosphatic group is a donor of protons. That's why nucleic acids are acidic in nature. Same picture. Here again molecular diagram, atomic structures given in detail. You should learn this. Will have to draw this figure. You see all the sugars are in this direction, while on the other strand all the sugars are in the opposite direction. The strands are anti-parallel. We may draw it like this here. This is the 5' end of all the sugars on that strand, while on this strand this is in the opposite direction. This is what we mean by saying that the two strands are anti-parallel. Look here, the bases are always towards each other from both the strands. The bases are towards each other from both the strands. Why three hydrogen bonds are not possible between adenine and thymine? Here there is an H only, here there is O. This carbon here, this is a CH actually, this is not a hydrogen donor. This CO is actually a hydrogen acceptor, that's good. But this is a carbon atom. This carbon atom is having a CH. CH is not a hydrogen donor, so a bond formation is not possible here. That's why only two hydrogen bonds are there between adenine and thymine. And again, look here the sizes. The diameter of the molecule is 2 nanometer. Typically, diameter of the molecule is 2 nanometer, and the distance between any two nitrogenous bases or any two nucleotides is equal to 0.34 nanometer. 0.34 nanometer. And one turn of the helix, I told you this is a double helix. One turn of the spring is consisting of 3.4 nanometer. Having a distance of it has a height of 3.4 nanometer, and in that distance 10.5 base pairs are there. That's why 3.4 nanometer divided by 10.5 base pair is approximately equal to 0.34 nanometer between any two nitrogenous bases. This is the mathematics. Remember this is a feature of the Watson and Crick model of DNA. And the parallel nature is shown here once again. So you should see these slides repeatedly. And there are different forms of DNA. A DNA, B DNA and Z DNA. Actually these forms of DNA are interconvertible. One form of the DNA is converted into another, how in the physiological conditions. Look at their nature, which of them is right-handed, which is left-handed, whether major are present or not, how many bases are there in every turn, and all those parameters, go through it to come for the examination. The same figure, you can see a cross section here. You can see a cross section, and you can compare this diagram also. Yes, the distance of formation of hydrogen bond, you can see it very here. Nitrogen is a hydrogen donor, oxygen is an acceptor. So what is the distance there between a donor and an acceptor? This is 2.9 angstrom. It is equal to 0.29 nanometer. This is 3.0 angstrom. So there is a difference of 0.1 angstrom. Okay, that's accommodated by adjusting the position of the donor atoms. Okay, yes. And this is the famous X-ray photograph taken by Rosalind Franklin. Rosalind Franklin was actually a famous scientist, even though she did not get Nobel Prize, because by the time the Nobel Prize is announced, you find out why Watson and Crick and Wilkins were awarded Nobel Prize, while a co-worker Rosalind Franklin was not awarded Nobel Prize. You just to find out and tell me. This is an X-ray film, a very nice photograph, a very good work this is. Our chapter is completed.